Good morning, Ms. Mendoza. We are working in group for the plagiarism project. My name is Dagoberto Bulnes. The other members are María Jose Alvarenga and Lia Rosa. Today we're going to talk about plagiarism. You may ask yourself, what is plagiarism? When people talk about plagiarism, the first thoughts are about people stealing others' work. And is that correct? That is probably correct. But what is exactly plagiarism? Well, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, to plagiarize means to steal and pass off the ideas or words of another as it your own. Use or to use another's production without crediting the source. And this is something important because later we're going to talk about what is citing and what is paraphrasing and how it is useful for avoiding plagiarism. Plagiarism is something that often occurs in the modern time, especially because it's really easy to have access to the internet. The accessibility to the information in the internet is so easy that stealing someone's work is practically just copying and pasting a text. And that is plagiarism. Copying and pasting something that is not your work is plagiarism. Plagiarism is not only about stealing essays, paragraphs, or quotes. It can also be about using others' music, videos, or images without the correct authorization. These materials are of private property and you should not be using them without others' authorization. Plagiarizing is forbidden by many institutions, and Zamorano is not exception. From being sanctioned to being expelled, committing plagiarism is something pretty serious. It is so serious that you can literally go to jail by not respecting others' property. The U.S. law forbids uh, getting someone's material without the correct authorization. Now my classmate María Jose is going to talk to you about some examples about what is plagiarism, and she's gonna talk further about that.
Okay, good morning. So today I'm going to talk to you about some examples about what does plagiarism means and how it is and how does it work. So according to different sources in websites, there are different ways to avoid plagiarism, like including codes involve the use of the exact words and including them in quotation marks or including quotation marks to the word and phrases you're going to quote. And by citing where did you get the information or the quotes from. So for an example of plagiarism, I'm going to read a brief paragraph from Name How Do Drugs Work, and then I'm going to show you what will be considered as plagiarism and what will be considered acceptable. So the paragraph says, drugs are essentially poisons. The amount taken determines the effect. A small amount acts as a stimulant. A greater amount acts as a sedative, and an even larger amount can kill you. And this is true about all of the drugs, and only the amount needed to achieve the effect differs. So the example of plagiarism from that paragraph will be if you just said the exact words that are in the paragraph, or you just change just a little, like by saying drugs are poison. Just the amount you take can differ. If you use a small amount, it will just be used as an stimulant. If you use a greater amount, it will be considered just as sedative. But if the person uses a larger amount, it can be considered as a poison and it can kill you. And this is considered about all of the drugs. So that is like the example of plagiarism because uh, it actually says almost the exact same words that the first paragraph said. So that will be considered plagiarism. But an acceptable paragraph will be drugs are dangerous. The difference between the danger it can suffer in the person is the amount you take. If you take a lower amount of drugs, it can speed you up. If you take a bigger amount of drugs, it can slow you down. And if you take an even bigger amount, it can kill you. So that's how plagiarism works. If you just say the exact words, you don't paraphrase, you don't do anything else, you just change the words from its original order, that's plagiarism. If you read it and just said what you get from the paragraph, that will be considered acceptable.
Now my classmate Lia Rosa is going to give a brief conclusion about plagiarism, and she's going to talk about how to prevent plagiarism.
I'm going to talk about the strategies for avoiding plagiarism. There are many strategies, but I'm gonna name some of them. I'm going to talk about some strategies for avoiding plagiarism. I'm going to name a few of them, and according to every person, you will take this one of them, and one of them is fit for you. Or you will use the one who you must feel comfortable. You feel more comfortable. One of them is put quotations in everything that comes directly from the text, especially when you make notes. Another way is to paraphrase it. You read the text very carefully, you get the main idea, and that's the more important thing, and then you put it in your own words, but always being careful not to change the main idea. The next step or the next strategy is to check your paraphrase, if you paraphrase it, because to make sure if you don't just rearrange the words or you change your main idea or something like that. But there are other things, there are terms that we need to know that is not always plagiarism if you use it. For example, common knowledge. If I'm given a work, there is my teacher assigned me a work, and I want to talk about, or I want to say that Barack Obama is the president of the United States. That is a common statement. Maybe I heard it from the news, maybe I heard it from a newspaper, and I know that almost all of the people knows that. So that is a common statement. And if I use that information in my paperwork or in my presentation, it's not a form of plagiarism. But also if I use another type of source, and I have that source, I use quotations too. Now, how to avoid plagiarism? For example, if you know who said what you want to use in your presentation, or you want to use that information directly, you must give it credit, because plagiarism is to use another people's ideas or phrases in your paperwork or in your presentation. So you must give credit to it. For example, if you use any fact or type of information that is not common knowledge, you use to make it or write it with quotation marks and address the article or the magazine or the source that you get that information. Or also, if you want to quote another person's word, but that should be that person's exact word. Also, you can paraphrase it, but also you can paraphrase it and make sure you don't use their exact words. That is why they tell you to check check again the paraphrase, your paraphrase. Now, how to cite sources properly. Make it clear who said it. Also, know how to paraphrase it. Remember, paraphrase is a restatement in your own words or of someone else's words. Now, another thing is that you have to come up, well, the most recommended thing is to come up with your original ideas. Don't worry, if you use another sources and you make it clear or you put in your bibliography in your work, it doesn't lessen your originality or something in your work, because instead it highlights your original ideas, and also it proves that you have the ability to analyze and you get the information.